and thank you for your long-standing leadership, being on point on these issues. I would like to thank my colleagues, Congressman Young, Congressman Paulus, and especially Dana Rohrabacher, with whom I've had the privilege to work on an ongoing basis. We formed a cannabis working group in 2013 so that staff members of people who care about this legislation could come together and figure out approaches on a cooperative basis. We've had some significant successes. Dana referenced one of them. But now it's time for a formal Cannabis Caucus. I've been working in this space literally for decades. I was part of the Oregon legislature when Oregon became the first state in the union to decriminalize marijuana. I've been deeply concerned about the gap between where the public is, what is rational policy, and where the federal government is. It's interesting to note that this movement to legalize cannabis has been driven at the state and local level. We started in California in 1996, Oregon, Arizona with medical marijuana. We saw in 2012, and my colleague Jared Polis will talk maybe a little bit about the Colorado experience. We saw this wave crest this November with 8 states moving at successful ballot measures to expand adult use or medical marijuana. We're at the point now where 95% of the American public are in states or territories where some aspect of marijuana or medical marijuana is available. So it's time for us to move with this bipartisan caucus. There's a lot of work to be done. We've had over 24 pieces of legislation, successful amendments, but now we're going to be focusing, in my judgment, on 4 critical areas. One is dealing with research, and we have bipartisan legislation with Congressman Harris, who isn't necessarily a fan of cannabis, but agrees that the federal government should not interfere with research. And I've had bipartisan legislation with him. We need to make sure that we have access for our veterans who in many cases have had their lives transformed with medical marijuana. We need to make sure the Veterans Administration works with veterans in places where it's legal. That amendment passed both chambers, but somehow got lost in the backroom dealing in the last Congress. And most important, we need to deal with their practical business needs. They cannot, because of a provision called 280E, fully deduct their business expenses, requiring a much higher effective tax rate, and they have to pay those unfair taxes with cash because of the banking prohibition, which is insane. I've been working in this for years. I've never met a single person who thinks any policy objectives advanced by making this be an all-cash business. These are areas that should not be necessarily partisan. They're not complex. They will make a big difference for the industry. And having a cannabis caucus where we can work together formally, I think people will be surprised by the number of folks in the weeks ahead that will join up on a bipartisan basis to advance these objectives.